Taiwan. I'm Philip Broussard with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen has pledged to take steps to better protect the victims of sexual harassment. This follows a series of harassment allegations against high-profile figures that have shocked the country. Officials from several political parties have been accused of misconduct, along with others in the arts and academia. The number of allegations have led some to call this Taiwan's Me Too movement. In a Facebook post, Tsai outlined a 3-point government plan that would introduce legislation designed to prevent sexual harassment. This would include amending current gender equality laws, as well as setting up sexual harassment reporting guidelines that meet international standards. Tsai instructed the head of the cabinet to create a task force to lead these efforts. Taiwan's People's Party presidential candidate Ko Wen-je has met with a second former Japanese prime minister in a week. Ko's meeting with Aso Taro, who was prime minister from 2008 to 2009, came on day 3 of Ko's visit to Japan. Aso was a close ally of the Taiwan-friendly Abe Shinzo. He also supports Taiwan's inclusion in the World Health Organization.
双方讲的相当机密啊，这个就不便在这个地方转述了。主要还是日本、台湾、中国的三角关系啊。这次还反而没有讲到美国的部分，就说这3个国家彼此应对的态度方法。
国民党 presidential candidate Hou You-yi has won an award for his role as mayor of New Taipei City. Taiwanese magazine Global Views Monthly hosts an awards ceremony every year, where they use polling data to choose the country's top mayors. The highest category of award is 5 stars. According to polls, Ho is Taiwan's 2nd most popular mayor, with an approval rating of just over 70%. It's the 4th year in a row he's achieved 5-star status. Despite being well-liked as mayor, in the polls for the presidential race, Ho is currently trailing the ruling Democratic Progressive Party's candidate, Vice President Lai Ching-te. Chip giant TSMC struck an optimistic note at its annual shareholders meeting this week. That's despite a global tech slump. Chairman Mark Liu discussed the company's performance in 2022 and gave updates on future plans. Joyce Tseng has the details.
Shareholders of the world's largest contract chip maker gather at its headquarters in Taiwan's northern Hsinchu city. TSMC single-handedly makes the vast majority of the world's most advanced semiconductors. These tiny components power everything, from smartphones to electric cars, and account for about 15% of Taiwan's GDP. TSMC reported its revenue increased 33.5% in 2022, marking its 13th straight year of record gains. That's despite an industry slump as consumers spend less on electronics. The company's chairman, Mark Liu, told reporters after the meeting he expects this number to fall by about 10% for the first half of this year. But that isn't stopping the chip giant from going after new technologies.
2奈米现在还在研发之中不过现在看起来大致都能达到我们原来的进程，所以我们对这个 technology 觉得是非常有信心。
Liu was referring to the company's most advanced production process. The name of the game for the chip industry is figuring out how to squeeze more transistors onto smaller pieces, essentially packing on performance. So-called advanced chips refer to 12-nanometer ones or smaller. The company is now racing against its main rivals Intel and Samsung to roll out the 2-nanometer process, which it says will be ready by 2025. Liu also signaled that talks to build the company's first European factory or fab in Dresden, Germany are going well. TSMC has been steadily expanding its footprint overseas. It's already invested $8.6 billion to construct a plant in Japan's Kumamoto city and $40 billion into 2 facilities in the U.S. state of Arizona. And in addition to the possible fab in Germany, it's also mulling a second Japan plant. Such expansions could give the already dominant TSMC yet another competitive advantage.
That diversification of supply is needed because the risk of not only China, but actually any event in like earthquake or drought or you name it is reduced. TSMC is going to become a real multinational, which is unheard of for such company.
But Liu said TSMC's most advanced chips would still only be made in Taiwan. That chip is set to power the latest tech like AI from the likes of Apple and NVIDIA. As devices become smarter and more connected, semiconductors and their makers like TSMC are set to be the bedrock for the modern digital economy. Eason Chen and Joyce Zhen for TaiwanPlus.
Drivers for rideshare services like Uber are protesting after Taiwan canceled plans to let them pick up airport passengers. The drivers say they're essential to dealing with a post-pandemic boom in tourism. Bing Wong reports.
A blockade of rideshare cars in front of Taiwan's transport ministry. These drivers are protesting the cancellation of plans to let them pick up passengers at Taiwan's second largest international airport. Right now, only registered yellow taxis can pick up airport arrivals.
我原本的客人，我要去送他机没有问题，为什么我没有办法开着我的车去接机呢？
那是不合理的，这是以前的那个制度了啦，但是说100年不改不对啦。
Protesters say since Taiwan opened its borders post-pandemic, demand for taxis and rideshares has surged. And it's only expected to rise further as the country hopes to attract 6 million tourists this year. Many of them will be coming through the airport in question, Songsan International in Taipei. The drivers' union says it will protest for as long as it takes to change the current system.
你这礼拜你不处理，下个礼拜我就开始去申请30天交通部的路权，我申请到每天来，我看你什么时候处理好。
The transport minister is looking to get the drivers off the picket line and into negotiations.
我想这部分应该是请多人计程车更理性的来沟通，不是用抗争就可以解决问题。
Wang says the ministry suspended the plan to let rideshares do airport pickups because yellow taxi drivers and car rental companies opposed it. But with millions more visitors arriving in Taiwan, the rideshare union says they're essential to cope with demand. And it would be in the interest of all sides to work out a compromise. Kama Xu and Bing Wong for TaiwanPlus.
The U.S., Japan, and the Philippines are wrapping up their first ever joint Coast Guard drills in the South China Sea. It comes as allies in Asia are looking to cooperate more closely to counter China's growing presence in the region. Jaime Okan reports.
These Philippine Coast Guard troops are practicing search and rescue operations. It's part of a week of drills between the Philippines, the U.S., and Japan that wrap up on Wednesday, the first exercises of their kind involving the three partners. In recent months, the Philippines has been working more closely with the U.S. and Japan to better protect the seas around its territory.
We do get our assets and training from these two countries. So what they want is they want to see how much we've improved and how we can, of course, encompass all of the training that they did. And in the future, they really want to work with us because as fellow Coast Guardians, we want to make sure that we can help each other in any situation.
More than 500 Coast Guard personnel took part in the most recent drills. Their aim is to enforce maritime law and increase security in the South China Sea. This area is rich with natural resources, and more than a third of all global trade passes through here, but the sea is highly contested. Countries like Malaysia, Vietnam, Brunei, and the Philippines all claim parts of it. But China claims to have sovereignty over the entire South China Sea. This is known as the Nine-Dashed Line Claim, which refers to China's markings on maps of the sea. China has made this claim for decades, but it has no basis in international law. Recently, China has taken more aggressive actions in the area, like this incident where one of its ships came within 40 meters of a Philippine vessel. This is one of the ways Beijing is trying to enforce its claims, and why allies in the region are seeking greater cooperation.
We're eager to further integrate with both the Philippines Coast Guard and the Japan Coast Guard this week and in the future. Together, our Coast Guards will reinforce and model international rules and norms at sea in order to promote a free and open Indo-Pacific.
China's aggression in the South China Sea has led the U.S. and its allies to focus on something called interoperability. This means the ability of Coast Guards and militaries from different countries to work collectively to make the area safer. This concept was one of the main goals of the exercises.
We greatly welcome this opportunity to reunite in enhancing our interoperability in joint maritime operations as we increasingly strengthen collaboration between our three countries.
Officials here say that by increasing cooperation, they hope to reduce the risk of conflict in the South China Sea and keep this vital trade route safe and secure. Damon Lin and Jaime Okan for TaiwanPlus.
Japan's military says Chinese and Russian bombers conducted joint air exercises near its territory on Tuesday. According to Japan's defense ministry, 2 Chinese and 2 Russian bombers flew over the East China Sea and Sea of Japan. 2 Chinese fighter jets reportedly also joined the group at a later stage. China says the aircraft were taking part in the 2 countries' annual military cooperation plan. Both Japan and South Korea scrambled fighter jets to intercept the Chinese and Russian planes. This is the 6th time China and Russia have conducted this kind of joint exercise since 2019. An algae bloom has ruined the oyster harvest on the coast of central Taiwan's Changhua County. In a typical year, this area can produce thousands of tons of oysters. But officials say this year's harvest may fall by half. And as John Van Trieste reports, they say climate change is to blame.
This Changhua County oyster farmer is one of many facing disaster. The water he uses to raise his oysters is clogged with slimy green algae. The ropes he's laid to grow the oysters are coated with algae too. A huge bloom along this central county's coast has led to a massive die-off of farmed oysters. It's something farmers here were not prepared for. Even farmers from families who've raised oysters here for generations say they've never heard of such a big bloom. This county produces more than 3,000 metric tons of oysters a year on average. But this year, local officials say only around half that amount may survive. That means even farmers who've managed to salvage some oysters are in a tough position. County officials say this algae bloom is the result of climate change, and they're going to ask the central government to provide whatever help or compensation it can.
科田如果有遭受损害的话，尽速跟公所通报，以利县府这边掌握最新的一个情形，那及时通报给中央启动救助作业。
But it's not yet clear what kind of support farmers can expect to get, or how they can protect future harvests as climate change worsens. James Lin and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Scotland's native wildcat population is almost extinct. But now there are new efforts to bring some of the cats raised in captivity back into the wild. Eric Gao reports.
This isn't your normal house cat. It's a Scott wildcat that's been raised in captivity. The species has all but disappeared from the wild because of habitat loss and hunting.
Unfortunately, they're on the brink of extinction as a species, so there's too few of them left in the wild to have a self-sustaining population left anymore. Really, without outside help, the species would go extinct.
Conservationists have been raising these wildcats, making sure they have minimal contact with humans. 20 of them will soon be released into Cairngorms National Park.
There are some nerves. I guess I feel a bit like an anxious parent. I think we all feel that actually, because the whole team's put a huge amount of effort into getting to this moment. It's taken actually years of work and collaboration to get to this point.
The conservationists' work doesn't end with the release. They'll be watching the wildcats from afar.
They're going to be tracking the wildcats using GPS collars. They're going to be monitoring their behavior through a network of camera traps. And they're also going to be monitoring their diet through scat analysis. So all of this research gathered will also go on to inform any future releases too.
Conservationists hope the cats will soon create a self-sustaining population in the wild, free from captivity. Leon Yen and Eric Gao for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Remember to download the TaiwanPlus app for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, today we leave you with images of coral rehabilitation efforts in Indonesia. The coral reefs were damaged by illegal bomb fishing. I'm Philip Broussard. Take care and see you next time.